My name is Dr. Wilfred Lane, and I'm one of those disadvantaged individuals. I'm a clinical professor at Stanford University School of Medicine, and I run a residency program in foot and ankle surgery. We developed that from one resident to about 10 residents now. And I'm looking to do other things. And one of the things that my partner and I are doing is this week we're signing a contract with a division of Rick Scott's Columbia Healthcare. And what it is a situation where we provide a resident or a student into a health facility, such as a surgical center or a hospital, and to be taught by surgeons. In other words, and we pay the surgeons a teaching stipend for taking on the resident or student for their case, that individual case. And we get our money from the surgical center or the hospital. And they benefit by it by having increased volume, because now the surgeons want to bring their cases to that hospital or surgical center because they're being paid a teaching stipend finally, which they've never been paid before. So this is a win-win-win situation. And when this works successfully at the Los Gatos Surgical Center, where we're doing it up north, we fully expect it'll expand through the Columbia system. So we're anticipating doing a big job with them.
Well, that's great. So you're a surgeon?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Rick, if this thing works, and I'm sure it does, I mean, Rick's the kind of guy that will, he won't have to do Lotus 1, 2, 3. I can assure you of that. If this deal looks hot, and it is hot, he'll blow through the whole system. And I think by the end of Saturday, you will, first of all, understand how Rick and his senior people think. Mm-hmm. Because Rick has trained these guys just like he is. And Rick's very much like I am. So, I mean, you're going to understand for future, you're going to get a double benefit here, because you're dealing with one of the guys that is out of the mold that I'm talking about. And and he has been extremely instrumental in training his senior people who have trained their senior people. And so it's flowed down the system. One of the reasons this company's been able to grow so rapidly is because there's a lot of entrepreneurial thinking, i.e. the million-dollar decisions at a fairly low level. So you're going to get that benefit, so you're going to understand, and in my judgment, you're going to be able to negotiate better future deals, because you're going to be thinking the same way they do, except you'll, unbeknownst to them, unless I call Rick, which I wouldn't do, but unbeknownst to them, you're going to know where they're coming from when you sit down with them. Boy, that's a big advantage, ladies and gentlemen. That's a big advantage. Secondarily, for physicians, you know, I always tell that engineers, accountants, and lawyers are the three toughest to make this quantum leap. And I always say doctors, physicians, not because they can't make the transition, but because they have what I call the Jesus Christ syndrome. You know, they have that life, death, I don't know what you call it.
Walk on water.
Walk on water. Yeah, that's exactly right. So they normally have, if they have a difficulty, it's because of that. But the thing that he has described, he's found the perfect market. I mean, the biggest in the industry. In addition to that, I'm writing some books in the healthcare industry, and we'll self-publish those. And then the third thing we're doing is, in about 6 months, we're going to probably distribute medical equipment and supplies in the Middle East, which is a big market because they haven't had access to it. And I have a connection for that, so we'll probably be getting into that. So it's all health-related as far as I'm concerned, because that's the area I have a strong suit in. Well, and the health industry is in chaos. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, big time. So he's in the right place at the right time. And ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, it's better to be lucky than smart. You know, where'd you go to medical school? Western Reserve in Cleveland. Okay, well, I was going to say, you know, we all assume that doctors are smart because of all the training. But they are. See, that Jesus Christ syndrome thing I was talking about a little earlier? But, I mean, he's in the right place at the right time. And, I mean, you know, I made my money in a down market. Some people say I don't know how to make money in an up market. We're finding out right now. But, I mean...
Interesting enough, a lot of physicians are very, very upset right now with the healthcare system because it's undergoing such a dramatic change that they are very concerned. Some of the ones that are older are retiring already to get out of it, and it's very problematic. And the people who are running it are people like Rick Scott's firms. That's who's running healthcare now.
And I have a friend of mine that's a cardiologist. He's 56. He's retiring.
Right.
Because he tried to explain to me the difference. Well, you used to get paid $3,500 to do this. Now you get paid $400. And if you're number 2 on the surgical team, you get paid $1,900. Now you get paid. I mean, and he said.
And if you're not on the plan, you can't even do it.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
gotta be on a plan.
Plus the insurance, you know, malpractice and all that. Well, that sounds great. That sounds great.
I got a question. If
Yes, sir.
this gentleman's about ready to do business with the Rick's people, who's going to want to sign it? Both going to want to write the deal up first.
Well, that's the way they've been doing it.
Who wrote your contract?
Division, one of the executives in the division.
His division.
It's one of the divisions of Columbia.
Yeah.
Columbia is the owner of the whole
What do you do
shebang.
if that happens?
If I would do that, I'd come in, I'd say, Rick, we'll write it ourselves. Of course, he's the one that taught me this. I mean, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the contract?
Yeah.
we wrote it.
Okay, good. That's excellent. Yes, sir.
Following on the comment, it's better to be lucky than smart, and your previous comment that every blind hog finds an acorn now and then.
They do.
My name is Mark Douglas, and I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. I first attended your class October 6th, and during that class I asked you the 2 hottest industries, or the hottest industries currently, and you said healthcare and telecommunications. And just 2 days prior to October 6th, I'd met a man who was in healthcare, getting ready to take his company public on the East Coast, and we hit it off right away. And to make a long story short, I overnighted him a letter. The next day, he said he was having his board meeting in Lake Tahoe in Nevada, and I flew up on a Saturday and sat down and talked with him, and he said that I had to have 2 years of medical experience in order to market his products. He has a revolutionary product that's patented. It's also in Columbia's system, and the sales can't keep up with, or production can't keep up with sales.
That's a good problem.
Like this gentleman, he had a bunch of doofus sales reps that he couldn't control, and I spent 4 days with him in Lake Tahoe, and we drank wine and red wine and gambled every night and hit it off very well, but he still wouldn't hire me. And I finally convinced him to let me come to South Carolina and meet him, which he did, and we spent another week there. And in that week, I convinced him to fire all of his doofus reps and to do all of the marketing via telemarketing and teleservicing with women with Southern accents, which is the most potent voice on the planet Earth on the telephone.
In person, too.
Yes. And so my new job will be to, and he gave me an equity position, discounted stock options, $50,000 more than I asked for, and I'll buy you all the martinis you can drink.
Huh? I mean, hey, you know, the shit works. I'm telling you. I mean, it's not that difficult. Even for a group as low IQ as this one, the stuff works. I mean, Hoffman, even for you. I mean, there's no question about it. That's dynamite. You know, and I get these stories all the time, you know, and and one of my kids, you know, because I take calls. See, I'm one of these guys that actually takes calls. And one of the things and I work closely in various ways with these companies. But I really get off when I hear these things, especially a brief exposure. One day, down at that thing they call the seminar down in San Diego. But that's great, and we've had that kind of response since I started doing this in May of last year. Very good.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
Okay. My name is Brenda Reiskin, and I'm not a seminar junkie either, and I hadn't been to one in a long time, and I'm really glad that I went to that one in San Diego, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't be here. I never want to listen to people who haven't done what they're talking about, and who aren't where I want to be. And I was fortunate enough to meet two people there, you who are where I want to be, financially free, and Ted Nicholas, who's doing what I want to do. So I feel,
as I mentioned, he was one of the guys at this deal that has credibility. I mean, he's got a
Yeah.
great amount of credibility.
So I think it was real worthwhile for me. I'm a real estate broker and have been for a long time. I raised 2 children with my income, and because of that, I was more conservative in doing some of the things that I now want to do. And I found that in this conference, there are many people who are where I am, who have been where I've been, and so a lot of things have been covered. But basically, my business creates a lot of income for me, but it is a trap, and I want to be geographic. I do not want to be geographically bound anymore. I went to live in Paris for 2 years ago for a year, and I realized that I want to create a vehicle that will enable me to live where I want to be, and will have residual income. So I'm on the path now. I know what I want to do, and if this conference delivers what you have promised it will deliver, I will have the tools to do it.
Well, I mean, there's no question about that. The only question is whether you'll use the tools. As I've said, nobody's ever accused me of not delivering the tools, but you know, we ought to have a flip survey to go track people down, because I only hear about the successes. Because if you fall flat on your face, it's because you didn't do it. And I don't hear from those people. I mean, you know, when I see them, they walk on the other side of the road if I'm in an airport. And so that's fine, because it's not for everybody. And contrary to, you know, as I said earlier, it's socially acceptable to talk about making money. But it's not so socially acceptable to do the things it takes to make money. Big difference. You know, talk's cheap, takes money to buy whiskey in West Texas, right, Jerry? That's right, and so I mean, but
well,
you'll get the tools,
yeah.
But it's up to you to use them.
Well, I paid the price to get where I was in my last profession, and now I'm willing to pay the price again, and that's why I made the effort to come here.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you very much, and sir.
Hi, my name is Jeff Broderick. My dad talked me into coming here. He went to the one down in San Jose because he's getting involved in a business
San
venture.
Diego.
Or excuse me, area slipped there. Anyway, we own a automotive repair facility in San Francisco, which I now manage after coming back about 6 months ago. And I guess he wanted me to get shook up a little bit here and see if we could give it a little bit of a jump start. So I think I need to change my goal from about a 50% increase in 1 year to probably at least double, and that's only because you can't do 10 times as much work within the facility we have unless we expand, which I guess is another possibility. So.
Well, I mean, I remember you talking to your dad, now that you refreshed my memory, back about 8 or 9 months ago, right? Or a year and 8 or 9 months ago. April of 93 or 94 we talked? 93. 93, a year and a half ago. And they're in the, is antique car the right, or specialty car, or?
No, he was dealing in specialty cars,
Okay.
which he still has some. But this is a general repair shop.
Okay, well, I mean,
it's a high volume shop in the city.
Whether you've got the facility to be able to take as many cars as it would be to grow your business 300 or 400%, that's not the point. See, the point is you should expand your horizons, your expectations to that level, then you'll figure out a way how to do it. You know, if I had a hamburger stand that could only seat 100 people, and I'm getting out of school because I don't know anything about the restaurant business, Hoffman's smiling, he's thinking, oh, guy who's going to stick his foot in or as they say, the custard in England when you make a mistake. He's going to stick his cock in the custard. But, I mean, you will either find a new facility, you will expand your existing facility, something will happen. And so, I mean, so expand your horizons, expand your expectations beyond the capability of how many you can seat. I mean, or not how many you can seat, how much you can do in your store. But that's good. I'm glad your father talked you into coming. And now, your father.
Yeah, hi, my name's Chuck Broderick. I met Dan Pena at the J. Abraham seminar. At that time, I was actually having 2 of my sons run the automotive repair business. By the way, our automotive repair business, my son's a little polite. We do over $1 million a year, and we are probably the highest tech shop in the San Francisco area, maybe in the state. We're a beta site for a company called Edge Diagnostic, which is a new technique that even the dealers don't use yet. And our equipment is almost computer freakish in its nature anyway. Our alignment machine is operated by a computer. We have computer information retrieval systems on the major automotive manufacturers. We have TSB, or Technical Service Bulletins, sometimes before the dealers do, and that stuff's changed quarterly. We have an informational retrieval service that we subscribe to, that if one of our master techs, which my son is too, they're certified in all 8 areas of mechanical repair. If they don't know something, they've got about 17 of those guys that work in Minnesota that have about 70 yards of CD-ROM material. So we're not just a little store, we're a big store, and we do a lot of business. And about 2 years ago, I decided to get out of it and turn over the kids. And when I went to Jay Abraham's program, I was trying to do a unique thing. I was trying to multi-level cars called dream cars. And one of the reasons was I didn't have any place to put them anymore. I had about 30 or 40 cars, ranging in from a 32 Chevrolet to a couple of Lincolns. I've got 9 Cadillac convertibles, and I had a bunch of other cars. And so I thought, well, a good way to get rid of these cars would probably be to get some people interested in them. Well, I got out of dream cars just as soon as I got in it when I went to Jay Abraham's program, because there were about, 2,000 people there? And not one person...
About 500 or 600, yeah.
Well, there were a lot of people there, and not one person, after I stood up and said what I did, and then that I had these great cars and so forth, not one single person came up and asked me a single question about the car. So I thought, well, I don't think I want to be in this business anymore. I'll just, get rid of my cars and keep the good ones for myself. And so I got out of that business. And at that time, I owned a 4,400 square foot house in a nice part of San Francisco. I have a ranch in Kenwood, which is in Sonoma County. I have a place in Tahoe. And so I've done pretty well in the automotive field. And it was time to, turn it over to the kids and see what happened. And so I went, and in the early 80s, I did some consulting work. In the automotive field, my average upturn in business was a 300% increase that was our minimum increase when I did consulting work. Nothing fantastic, it's just all simple, basic stuff, like take care of the customer, have clean restrooms, have clean floors, don't dirty up the customer's cars and stuff like that. And some very basic technical stuff, and sometimes some equipment improvement and training was involved. I'm also a seminar junkie. I have a 650 square foot office at my ranch, and I've got a closet about from here to the door that holds about 21 cabinets. I never throw anything away. And so I found out, though, during the automotive field days that I wasn't a real good trainer. We had a shop that had been in business for 33 years named Spike's Auto Body in San Francisco. We moved it to bigger quarters, to a 12,500 square foot shop that had been closed for about 4 months. And the first month we beat his all-time record of automotive repair, body and paint, by $1,000. We did 51,000. And I stayed there until August 31st. And in August, the month of August, we did 94,000. So, my percentages dropped a little bit, but wasn't too bad. I guess I consider that a zero startup. But I have a friend named Joe Sanfilippo who went with me to the October 6th, October 6th Dan Pena thing. He owns a company called Franchise Works. And he's developed franchises for probably 3 or 4 different companies, including one of the 100 best by the New Success magazine's program, Cotman Transmission. He was the area developer for Cotman in the. He's a San Diegan. Is that what you call San Diego people? He's from San Diego. And in the course of the many trips that I've come up here, I've been impressed by a company called Baltimore Bagels. And we were looking around at Baltimore Bagels, and they don't sell franchises. And they have another company that makes Baltimore Bagels look like they aren't in the bagel business in San Francisco called Noah's. In Noah's on Sunday and Chestnut Street location, here's a company that went from 3 locations in February of '93 to 21 units now. The bagel business is coming into vogue, and they don't sell franchises either.
Bagels you like to eat.
Yeah, bagels like cement donuts.
Okay.
So, he was talking about KKR. KKR bought a company, and I think it was the start of their end, called RJR Nabisco. And RJR Nabisco had a company called Skolnick's Bagels that they spun off, and it just kind of sat around since, when was that, 88, Dan?
88, yes.
Yeah,
89.
all right, well, 88, 89, it sat around. They had something like about 28 stores, and I think they dropped down to about 13 or 14, and they called themselves bagel bakeries, bagel bakery restaurants. And Joe went back and talked to their, I guess it was their president at that time, and wound up buying California. And so he's hitting on me. He says, you know, Chuck, you've been doing consulting all your life. And he said, he said, you've been doing franchising all your life. You call it consulting or giving people information. And you've never really been paid for it. And my fees as a consultant when I was doing it with the 300% increases was about $10,000 for a week, about 13 years ago. But after you give somebody information, they don't understand that that's just a partial portion of it. That's why Dan says when you come back to his seminar, you get more than you got the last time, because he changes the material, and when you hear things more than once, well, it sometimes stays with you. So we started off with the Skolnick's, I guess they call it a master franchise, or Joe bought California. And he came after me, and I said, I don't know if I want to be in the franchise business. I said, I think I'm about ready to, head to another country and play with Claire more than I have been, because I've been following
And Claire
Dan,
is?
my wife.
Okay. I had assumed it was since your son's sitting there, but I wasn't sure.
No, his name is Susan. Anyway, that didn't work out, and I tricked Claire into letting me go on another program, so we were going to go into the Skolnick's bagel bakery business. And we sold 8 franchises in Southern California, and I bought the San Francisco area, which 5 Bay Area counties includes about 13.5 million people. And about 2 weeks ago, Joe called me up and he said, hey, Chuck, he says, we're pulling away from Skolnick's. He says, these guys haven't contributed anything. He says, we've done all of the new designs, and we've worked out the demographical studies and so forth, and they haven't helped us at all. So I said, well, I think about it overnight. And he says, no, he said, my mind's made up, but I'll call you back tomorrow with a positive decision. So once again, Joe practiced what Dan said you should do, and now we're in a company called Golden Bagels. 2 days later, the current CEO, a guy by the name of Jerry Grizzle, who's a general in the reserves, resigned, and a guy by the name of Williams came back, and the FEC is investigating him for stock manipulation and stuff like that. So anyway, we have a whole brand new company, and I'm a part of that, and it looks like it's going to be exciting. We intend to open 1 store in the next 6 months, 10 stores in the next, in my area. Joe's already got 8 open or sold. here, and about 15 deals cooking. I've got 5 deals cooking. We will open a store in the next 6 months, 10 in a year, and we'll develop our area in 3.5 to 5 years, which should be 50 to 80 stores in the 5 area counties that I'm involved with. And then Joe's starting to call me the director of training, so I guess I've got something to look forward in that regard. And so from dream cars to consulting to bagels. Oh, by the way, the bagel business was considered an ethnic business until about 5 years ago. You couldn't even get a bagel recipe in old New York unless you were the friend, relative, nephew, or something of a bagel bakery. And they kept it a very closely guarded secret. And the bagel bakers are so good that they can tell how much yeast you used in it, what kind of flour you used, and sometimes it's rumored by the Bagel Bible that they could even tell who baked the bagels. They don't, bagels, by the way, you know, just for if you're interested, bagels are kettled, which are boiled, and then they're baked. And by the way, they're nutritious, they're healthy. No fat, yeah, yeah. And that's where we're going. By the way, I challenged Dan. I said he made a mistake. And he looked at me. It's the first time I saw him startled since I've watched him. But, and I said he keeps saying something that's wrong, because he says practice makes perfect. And I'd like to challenge him on that. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect.
He's right. Perfect practice does make
Okay.
perfect. Okay. He's
All right, and then the other thing that
after my 20,000 mistakes I've made in my business career.
Okay, now the other thing that I wanted to say is that this is a compliment to Dan, because I was told one time that the only way that you're going to change your habits, you know, these habits, thoughts, and friends that we have that mess us up, the only way that you're going to change those if you have a significant emotional experience. And I think we'll all agree that Dan is definitely a significant emotional experience.
Thank you. Thank you. He made an interesting point, and there's another area that's got chaos that I haven't mentioned yet, but chaos exists around large acquisition fallout. KKR and Nabisco is a perfect example, but large acquisition fallout. It's normally because when these big acquisitions are made, they're normally going to knock off businesses to pay down debt. That's a good, and there's a lot of chaos because who cares about this division, that company, but it's not ours. It's a good place if they've got a company that you're interested in, or even if you're not interested in, if you can buy it right. I mean, so that's another area that chaos exists around. And this is a good example because I remember having this talk about his dream cars, and he took that information from this J. Abraham seminar that basically nobody was interested, and he transitioned back into something that he did well, that exposed him to some frogs, because you can't do consulting without seeing a lot of frogs, kissing a lot of warts. And by the way, toads have warts. Somebody corrected me a couple of months ago. But anyway, I still say frogs. Anyway, because a frog, you kiss it, turns into a prince or a princess or some fabled story. And so he essentially, in many ways, in many respects, did what we've been alluding to all day and what we're going to talk about the next couple of days. And this is an important point. Chaos exists around large acquisition fallout. Now, last on our number 29 or 41 on our menu, number 1 on our hearts, the Verdiers. I'm going to ask them to come up, and I don't know if you both want to come up or one of you. I know one of you likes to talk more than the other. So, but there are 2 letters in your packet. Now, we designed these packets before I knew they were going to be here. And one letter is from George and Deanne shortly after the seminar at the castle. And then another letter is from Deanne, I think, 2 months later. Right? Okay. 2 miserable months. 60 days later. Okay? Now, notwithstanding the castle is a special place, you know, Lloyd's of London, who's just tripled my insurance rate because of all the screw-ups they've made, now I've got to pay for it, says it's one of the most finely appointed grand homes, estates in all of Great Britain. That's saying something. We had the same interior decorators that did Buckingham Palace. I mean,
How'd you acquire that?
I bought it in 1984 because I wanted. We're going to talk about perception as reality tomorrow. I wanted a different social and economic milieu to raise my kids in. If my kids were going to get screwed up, my wife and I were going to do it our way, and on a different environment. And I wanted to be as far away as I humanly possibly could away from my parents, and especially my in-laws, who are doofus morons, who are in their late 80s, live over here in the valley. And we wanted our kids, we would expose them once they got to be 10 or 12, and they already had their little characters built before we exposed them to the family. And that's what we did, and that's why we moved. But they were there, and but these letters that we got, and that's why I put them in the packet, 60 measly days. Now, and this is the truth, on the third or fourth day, George looked like he was ill sitting there around the table, remember, up in my boardroom, because he was really thinking about this stuff. And he realized that he was going to have to have a life-changing experience, as was just mentioned, if they were going to do these things. And both he and his lovely wife had a difference of opinion on which way they should go. And his wife's sitting over there smiling, but she's a pretty opinionated lady. She's got a big mouth. I mean, she talks a lot, and she's very opinionated. And so he knew, and he was just sitting there, and when he'd walk out of the room, he looks like the bone marrow had been sucked from his bones. And I mean, because I really, at the castle, we really go into a lot more detail. You're going to get a lot here in the next 2 days after today. But I mean, we really go through your company and what you do, and your brother-in-law, the miserable brother-in-law you ought to blow out. And I mean, we go through all the detail. And George was mentally, I imagine, he can talk for himself when he gets up here, he was going through all those machinations, all the things. Well, they went on a driving trip across the country, and I used to tease them. Here's Mr. and Mrs. Doofus with their little doofus kids in the back, and they're driving in their big van or something across the country, and they did. And they were in touch with their office, and they were making changes, and they hired a lady to basically, that has already worked at a company that won from zero to a lot of money. And and when you hear them talk, they had an opportunity to build their business geometrically once they could get over the emotional hurdle of having to make some changes. So if you both want to come up, or one of you, or both of you, it doesn't make any difference to me. Huh? Okay, come on up. They are from Baltimore, and when I gave a seminar out there, they were kind enough, they allowed me to stay at their home. And they've heard me speak a number of times, and they're here on business, and good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Okay.
Why don't you go?
Where are you from?
Well, we left Baltimore this morning. We're closer to Washington.
Okay, well, it's all the same to me. Okay, go ahead.
You start and then I'll correct.
They need a mic.
Oh, Mike. Where's the mic?
Does this work? This isn't a real mic. This is just a prop.
No, it is. It works for the camera,
Oh, okay.
but it doesn't. Okay.
I was going to say, I can project.
Okay, it's all right. Go ahead.
Well, I always have to go first because George always steals my thunder, so we just make it a policy. Dan's right, I do have a big mouth, and it runs all the time. But anyway, I guess we first met Dan. I went kicking and screaming literally to Las Vegas about almost a year ago. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to hear Dan speak, and I was totally against the whole idea. Well, it was a CEO club convention. We went, and Dan spoke maybe 15 minutes. Joe didn't give you a lot of time.
15, 20.
But everything he said had meaning to me. He was saying the things that I was thinking, and it just led us to believe that we wanted to hear more of what Dan had to say. Then he came to Washington and spoke at the CEO Club. Actually, I got to hear him twice, once in Baltimore and the second day in D.C., so I got a double dose. And then George and I decided shortly thereafter that we wanted to go to Scotland, and that was, I think, going to Las Vegas and meeting Dan, I really hit the major jackpot there. It changed not only our business, but our personal lives, the way we look at everything, the way we look at our friends or the people that we thought were our friends. You're right.
Doofuses.
Yeah, they're really shallow. They don't get it. They're narrow. They're not big thinkers. They just think small. And George and I have always been very focused people. We're the kind that once a year we sit down with a piece of paper and we list out our goals for the year. And then periodically throughout the year we bring it out and we look to see where we're at. Well, I'm sure this year when we started in January with our list, I'm sure we have gone far beyond our expectations. But I think I don't even know where to start. So many things have happened since we saw you
Talk about how
last.
much more money you're making. That's what these...
Well, I don't deal with money. He deals with money. I just spend it, and I do a real good job of that. But
She's the East Coast distributor of money.
Yeah.
I'm getting my new car next week, I think. But we started out, we knew we wanted to grow our business. We're in the, I hate to call it what we usually refer to it as arts and craft festivals, because people think of the little old ladies and the handmade doilies. But basically what we do is create a marketplace for fine artists and craft designers to meet with appreciative patrons. Isn't that good? I thought that up this morning on the plane. But that kind of describes what our business is. And we started out doing it in the D.C. area, and for, I guess, 13 years we stayed in D.C. And last year we decided that we wanted to branch out. We wanted to try our formula in New Jersey. So we were going a few hours north of our current existing locations. And then we went, actually right after the first show, or was it before? Well, right around that same time, we went to Scotland, and we decided that, when did we go to Scotland? That was June.
May, June.
Yeah, so
June.
it was right after our very first show. Well, we came home and decided that if we wanted to really grow our business and commit ourselves, well, we had made up our mind when we were there. I had an experience. I was corrected at dinner one night. I had an emotional experience. Ed was sitting across the table from me asking me questions as Dan quietly was eating his dinner. And then he looks at me and he says, "You don't get it." Well, then I had to sit and think about, do I understand what he's talking about? And I think I spent an entire evening deep in thought, and I realized...
No, you went to your room.
Yeah, I
went to
did.
your room.
Oh, I was deep in
We
thought.
haven't had anybody cry yet.
I cried. That's why I was in
good
my
at this.
room.
I told Kaufman, because I know his wife, I wasn't going to make him cry in front of his wife. So, but if nobody else I've made any promises to. Go
I
ahead.
had dignity. I went to my room and
Yeah,
cried by
that's right.
myself. But yes, you succeeded. I don't know whether to give you the satisfaction of knowing. But it hurt my feelings, and then I thought, this is stupid. He's not trying to hurt your feelings. He's trying to teach you something. And I realized at the time that I had to make the commitment. If I was going to do this, well, I shouldn't be crude. You have to have the courage to stand up behind your convictions. Later, I'll tell you what I was going to say. But you do have to have the courage to be willing to put it all on the line, both cheeks on the line, and be willing to go either way. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to do it. But we have focused our energies so strongly into what we want to do and set our goals. And since we were in Scotland, we've expanded our business by 50%. Starting in '95, we're going to be having 2 additional shows in Michigan. We're going to be in the Detroit area, and 2 shows in the Philadelphia area. We've taken numerous trips to Chicago, we want the Chicago area. It's in our A market. We know it would be a successful show, but we have to find the proper venue for it, which we haven't been able to do. We do not like to go into the downtown areas for our type of events. But we've been out to California. Now this is our second trip out. This will be our 3rd show that we're looking at. We're thinking of possibly acquiring this particular show we're going to see tomorrow. But anyhow, I have to attribute Dan to giving us the really the courage, the self-confidence, and the willingness to do what you have to do. And with that...
Thank you.
Thank you.
George?
Deanne did a good preamble. I want to thank you for letting us stop in here today. We are out here on business. We're out here looking at shows to acquire. One of the things Dan's going to tell you is that there's a pay price to action to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Our goal is to become super rich. One of our vehicles is the business we're in now. It's probably not the end vehicle. It's a vehicle along the way. We want to build it up, dress it up, and then sell it. Either take it public or sell it. One of my competitors just sold a string of 21 shows in this area to a $6 billion information company in Canada. So there's a market to do it, but we need to build it up. Our business is kind of where the real estate business was maybe 15 or 20 years ago, when you had all the little mom and pop real estate operations in every little city, and there was no one that was nationwide. No one had branded it. Century 21 came in and branded it. Better Homes and Gardens, I think, came in behind them and did the same type of thing. We want to be the first one to come in and brand the retail craft industry. And to do that, There's the pay price to action that Dan alludes to all the time. You have to change your way of thinking if you're going to grow your business. When you go back to your business, you can't do what you've been doing and expect to do a quantum leap. It's just not going to happen. More of the same gets you more of the same. So when we went back, we changed the way we did business. First of all, while we were in Scotland, and I got to tell you, this is as an emotional experience as you'll get, is being immersed into this tank for a week, non-stop, breakfast to bedtime, Dan Peña, and it's just, there's nothing like it. You won't get it here in 3 days, what you'll get there. It's amazing. At any rate, we made a plan there of the changes we wanted to make. On the way back on the plane, our minds are going because we're just all fired up with this. We came up with a way to increase our cash flow $500,000 immediately this year. Right now, it's coming in now as we speak. Our little beavers are back there depositing checks and socking them into the bank. We have increased in the last 4 months our business 50%. 5 weeks of that we were on vacation. We've been to 30...
Point. They let loose. We got chokers of the business, I can tell, just by looking at you.
Choking it, that's right.
Yeah. Burl was the preeminent expert. Buy her a drink. Nobody choked her business more than Burl. They were maybe second place. She had her fingerprints on her throat like this. Go ahead.
No, I'm an engineer. I was choking it pretty good.
Yeah.
We've been doing this business for 20 years. It was around $2 million, and we polished this car till it shined so perfectly you wouldn't believe it. When we came back, the first thing we did was assemble our staff. We told them that they're going to be running the business from here on. And most of them have been with us for some time, and it's not a feat that they couldn't rise to the moment. In fact, they have exceeded all my expectations in coming and taking charge, and God forbid they've even come up with ideas that are better than what I was doing and doing it. We gave them all a $2,000 raise. We told them we're going to be working them harder. They're going to be working themselves harder. 4 days later, we left for 5 weeks, and we left it with them to do it and build it. During that time, we have investigated every competitor of significance in the country. We've hired private investigators to look into 4 of them. We've done as much financial background as we can on the ones that we're interested in. Now we're at the point where we're going out individually and visiting each competitor and seeing if it's something that we want to try to acquire or not. Right now we're on the East Coast, as far west as Detroit. We want to be nationwide. In order to come to California, we need a customer base out here already. We need a beachhead. And so we're looking here to acquire some shows in the western United States here, so that we can then build this market out here and be nationwide. And then we'll have a vehicle that we can dress up. Right now, I spend all of my time on business development. I don't even turn on my computer anymore. The spreadsheets are still there.
Thank God.
All little budgets, and I was very comfortable. I could go into work and turn on the computer, and I could play all day and be comfortable, and we had a great life. But it wasn't going to go to a quantum leap, which is what we want to do. We're focused together. We're a team of 2, so we should be able to do it twice as fast. And Deanne is working easily as hard and perhaps harder than I am at getting this done. And it's an amazing thing to see it happen. The most amazing thing is we had all the tools, all of the knowledge we needed all along. What we needed is to be able to believe in ourselves, to believe in our staff and let them go, release their brakes, to keep focused. We are focused every hour of every day on what we need to be doing to achieve our goals. We know exactly what our goals are, and we're focused every hour of every day. I don't watch the news. I don't go and do things that just flood my mind with a bunch of ideas that have nothing to do with what's happening to me. We've invaded Haiti, I'm told. I don't care.
I
if
love
they come
this.
and get me,
I love it.
they'll do it. Okay, it doesn't affect me.
They've gotten comfortable knowing that it's okay. Their people are going to make mistakes. They're going to do more right than wrong. And they've even come up with some ideas that, that are, and that will happen, that are better than your ideas, by definition. and they hired somebody that has been there before.
That's right.
And
They used to be afraid to speak up. They were scared to death that we were...
being around you, I can understand that. I mean, you know...
Very understanding.
That's
Yeah.
right. We've sold off part of our business. This last week I sold off 2 home shows that we also did to the second largest paper in Washington, D.C., and unloaded that because it was a split focus from what we were doing. We want to be focused like a laser beam on this project of building this business up. And I told the people back at the office, I said, I'm going to go out and get the cows, and I'm going to bring them into you. And then I'm going to want you to stand here and milk them and just keep milking them. I'm going to go out and get more cows and bring them in. And that's my job. It's completely different from what I was doing before. Deanne's job is to fill the shows with the customers. She deals with almost 3,000 customers on a promotional basis. What we are really is promoters. Have you seen the movie Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come. Well, that's what we do. We create an idea, a show somewhere. We convince all of the artisans that this is going to be the greatest show on earth. Come in and be a part of it. If they all believe it and come, then it is. And then we got something to go out and sell. And so we're promoters like a prize fighter promoter or the circus promoter or the guy who runs the Rolling Stones and gets them. We want to brand it like the circus is branded with the greatest show on earth and all of the others. And that's what will make its equity value jump up. Right now, as long as it's just a little individual string of shows, it's not worth a lot. But once it's branded, and it's the first one in the nation to be seen nationally as a brand, its value jumps like this. And that's where the quantum leap comes for us, is selling it once we get
pumping
that.
it up like a
once
show
we
dog
get
and then dumping it.
Right.
Well, one of the things that we talked about was acquiring other shows, which they heretofore hadn't seriously considered. And now I'm glad to hear that they have considered it. And they've gotten comfortable with the idea of super success.
Being in the promotions business, banks don't like to lend you money on things that don't exist. And we have a lot of customers, as I said, a lot of our patrons are loyal patrons. And we contacted an SEC or former SEC lawyer that we know, Carl Duncan, that you know. And we've got a system ready to put into place when we need it to issue royalty bonds that will give someone a good return on their money and a share of the profits in the first 5 years on a new shows that we would acquire. And we're targeting who are the frogs that we're going to want to bring into this that can do it. It's a minimum $25,000 investment, can be up $100,000, $200,000, and we're looking at raising maybe $1 million, depending on what we're buying. So we've got a vehicle ready to do that as well. I lined up a lawyer who works for the Halfs. I don't know if you follow the ins and outs of what's happening in the papers with the Halfs, but this is a family that's kind of self-destructing because they became super wealthy. And they had a lawyer that did all of their real estate deals in Washington for Crown Books and Dart Drug, and actually all over the country. They're nationwide now. And this guy, he is great on deals. He won't come in and scotch a deal like a lot of lawyers come in and they'll ruin your deal. This guy comes in and he doesn't ruin the deal. He can help you close it and do it in a way that's final and complete. He doesn't mess around.
Tomorrow we're going to talk about building our dream team, or maybe that's Saturday, I can't remember which. And that's what they're alluding to, because, I mean, because you can't do it alone. You've got to have a team. And if you're dealing with your brother-in-law, by definition almost, unless he's a senior managing partner of O'Melveny and Myers or something, it's not the right guy. If you're dealing with any relative, almost anybody you went to school with, anybody that's your neighbor, almost categorically, I can guarantee it's the wrong guy or gal. I can say that. And I've been wrong so few times, you can't count them on 2 fingers. And if it's your kid, unless he went to Stanford or Harvard, maybe, better Stanford, I mean, forget it. I mean, it doesn't happen. Yet I come in and see these businesses, and they run, the doofus has his doofus daughter running, or his doofus nephew, and I mean, it's just unbelievable. And they wonder why the business is falling in with a tidy ball man. I mean, I mean, I can't begin to tell you how good this makes me feel, because I know it works. You know, it works so easy for me, I got bored with it. I retired when I was 39 years old. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. 39. Then I came back to work because my partner dropped dead on me, inconvenienced the hell out of me by dropping dead. I had to come back to work, stayed at work 3.5 years. Then the shareholders retired me. And so, but then, almost 3 years ago now, and then I got involved in this, and I enjoy doing this. And it's just not that hard. I mean, if the Verdiers can do it, Jesus Christ. I mean, if Whipple can do it, if Burl can do it, God Almighty, look at this. I mean, we're not talking to Einsteins. It's not that hard, is it? You got to stay focused, though.
Commitment. It's commitment and it's focus to do it, and you do have to be committed. That's one of the things we got out of the seminar in Scotland, is that we came out of there with a complete commitment to do this, and we are 100% at it. Since the 1st of September, we've had one weekend at home with our kids, and we've been on the road. We're on the road now. We were in, I don't know where last weekend, and we've just been on the road. And so there is a pay price to action to do it.
You still got that Guthrie dog?
Yeah, when I see him, yeah.
They got a great Dalmatian, really. Anyway, any questions of the Verdiers? I mean, sure.
One of the things that...
Mike.
Thank you, the official. One of the things that we didn't really touch on, that in addition to the commitment and all that we made when we were in Scotland, one of the things that Dan really succeeded in doing is putting the passion back into the business. We've been in this business for 20 years and it's successful. We have a nice house. He drives a nice car. I drive a nice car too. It's going to be nicer next week. But everything was rolling along and we were real happy. But it was kind of boring. You went to work, you knew every day what you were going to do. You could just pump the list out of the computer and just follow 1, 2, 3, exactly what you and your staff are going to do. But he compared it to when you first get married, and sex, and how exciting it is. Yes.
You know, in the bathroom, on the kitchen table, in the car. I mean, you know, some of you got a twinkle. Well, I think I can remember that. Well, yeah. I mean, but when you wanted to come to work in the morning, remember you were talking about wanting to come to work and working those 10 hours? I mean, I still enjoy doing this, you know. When people send me faxes at 11, 12 o'clock at night, it's a game. I send them faxes back at 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm in my office. Of course, my office is in my home, but it's that lust for life.
You wake up in the morning, you can't wait to get to work. You can't wait to see what's going to be in the mail. Well, I can't wait to see what my staff is coming up with. And I'm one of these people that had total control over everything. Everything was my project. Yes, I was choking it to death. And now I'm the queen of delegating. I delegate everything. I walk into the office, and half the time they don't even know if I'm there. We have a reception area in the middle. Our offices are off to the left. Their offices are off to the right. And if the receptionist doesn't answer the phone... In fact, Lorraine called the other day, and the receptionist was down the hall or whatever, and somebody in the back answered the phone. She didn't even know whether I was in. So it doesn't matter whether I'm in or not. They're running things.
Most of the time it's better when you're not.
Yeah.
There's a question for you in the back.
Yes. There are a lot of security laws that relate to royalty bonds, and you have to present them the way we were going to do it. In order to sell them, you couldn't be a broker of any kind to do it, and you had to pass a lot of qualifications. It's not laborious, but you have to do it in a certain way so that you're not violating SEC laws. And former SEC attorney is a great guy to set you up with the paperwork you need so that it files. Because in a sense, you're selling part of your company. In a sense, you're just getting them to loan you money. So it's kind of a gray area there, but there's a lot of ins and outs of it. If you're interested, I'll give you the fellow's name. He's kind of an expert in this particular area of it.
And I know Carl, right? Carl?
Yeah, you know Carl.
I know Carl. Carl is a dynamite guy. I know what the point you're getting. I think I know the point. They are, I believe, you have to. It's a private placement. They're going to be. It's going to be considered a. You have to be a Class A investor, net worth of such and such, income of such and such.
Yeah, if you have a net worth of over $1 million, then you can invest whatever, and,
Yeah.
and you can have as many of those as you want. You can have only a limited number of people that are net worth under $1 million.
Under 31
But
or under
it includes
36.
their
Yeah.
residents as well.
Yeah. Yes.
George and Dan, I've got two questions about the practical side of your business. First is, how do you go about finding artists to do this, and thereby ensuring the customer, the stream of customers?
The stream of customers is part of what we've been working a lot on. We've spent a lot of time talking to our customers. We have a customer base now, prospect list of maybe 8,000 or 9,000 that we know of in the country that are on our list. We deal directly with probably 2,000 or 3,000 of those in the course of a year. And part of our due diligence this fall was to get in with the customers and find out how far are they willing to go. Because the mentality of the individual artisan is very small. They haven't taken a quantum leap. You know, they do their paintings or their pottery, and they can figure, you know, where am I going to do shows? For most of them, it's a long day's drive is the limit. And I quantified it this fall. It's 450 miles. So I've got now 17 markets I want to be in. I drew a 450-mile radius circle around every market. I got it up on my wall to inspire me. Every day I look at this. And that's where I see. If I want to put a show, I can look at my list of prospects and see how many I've got in that area. That's why I know when I come out here to California, I've got to buy a show to start where I get an existing base of not only the artisans, but an existing base of patrons.
If you put a show someplace, the artists just are drawn to it, they go automatically, and the rest is easier?
They go because of us.
That-
They know we're going to bring the people in to see them and survive.
We've been delivering the money, the sales to them, and that's why they come. We have to constantly be promoting it, and we do go to the shows and promote it. I mean, as far as being at the shows, we're still there. We won't always be there, but right now, as we're growing the new markets, we're there, and we're hustling up customers. Every customer, one of the things in Dan's worksheets that we did before we went to the castle, and you may have had it here, I don't know, was to figure out what is the lifetime value of a customer. One of the most interesting things I'd ever done. What's the lifetime value? How much money over a period of your relationship with a customer will it be? Now keep in mind, our customers are artists, individual artisans. They're not wealthy people. It's not selling oil. It's not huge mega bucks. One customer in a lifetime relationship with us is worth anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000. Now we deal, this year we'll have 4,000 booths and 2,000 or 3,000 customers, so it can build up as we go national. It builds up quite quickly. But we've been going around, in addition to checking out our competition, we're building up more customer prospects as we go around the country. Tomorrow we'll go through this show. Anybody we see that's good, they're on our list. And, you know, at $50,000 a wax, not bad.
Where does your income come from? Strictly from your artists, or is there other sources?
No, this is an interesting business. It comes from everybody. We get money from the artisans who pay to be in the show. We get money from the patrons who pay to come to see the show. We get money from the food vendors who are in the show. Who else do we get money from? And everybody pays us.
I like that. You get a percentage of the sales?
No, not directly. The booth fee is really based on the sales. Everything comes from the sales. If the artisan sells $5,000, they'd be willing to pay $500, about 10%, for a booth. They take their own sales, but we track their sales.
But they do pay you a percentage then?
No.
Not directly.
The food vendors are the only people who get
For the artisans, it's a flat fee. They rent a booth, it's $400, $500.
So you're selling
But we track the sales. If the sales went up to $10,000 a booth, guess what's going to happen to the booth fee? It comes right
How
up.
do you track that?
We do an anonymous survey with them at the close of every show. I send people out to every booth with a card, and they check off their category and tell us what their sales were retail and wholesale. And why, you might ask, do they bother to tell us what their sales are? We come back to them with a survey report that week following the show that breaks it down by category and gives the average retail, average wholesale sales by category, and then overall for the show. And thereby they know how they did it in comparison to everyone else. And just like everyone in business, they're curious what everybody else is doing. So they turn it in. We get anywhere from 70 to 85% return on those survey cards. And the numbers, however accurate, my belief is that they're low because they don't include a lot of the sales that are done right after the show, which there's a lot. But whether they're low or they're high or they're inaccurate, they are at least consistently inaccurate from show to show to show. So when you use them as a comparison, it's a valid statistical comparison. I was an engineer in my former life, and so I like to play with a lot of numbers and things. And that's part of the fun.
Any other questions? Thanks a lot. I'll see you after the show. Okay. Any questions before we call it a night? Very good. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Thank you very much. It's going to get real interesting. If you don't think it's interesting now, it's going to get a lot more interesting tomorrow. Thank you. Morning. Morning. Now, see, I'm not going to put up that thing I had yesterday. How does this apply? Remember that? I'm taking a big risk here because this group's not that bright. Your business idea was born out of revolutionary thinking and passion and is dying out of indifference, apathy, and satiation based on low expectations. Everybody in this room, with a few exceptions, and those are the people that have heard me pound the shit out of them over the last year or year and a half, this applies to. Your business stroke idea was born out of revolutionary thinking and passion. Remember that passion to get up in the morning and go to work? This young man, I'm being kind here, the gentleman here with the glasses here, the VR broker, okay, and is dying out of indifference, apathy, and satiation based on low expectations. Some of you, if you make 50, 40 grand, 140 grand, whatever the number is, you're comfortable. It's very easy to be comfortable. But just think about it. For those of you that have a significant other, when you get past the lust stage, it becomes comfortable. And pretty soon you become apathetic. And pretty soon you don't much care if they sleep in the same bed or not. I see a lot of people saying yes with their eyes. Same things in business. Same things in business. It's very easy to become satiated. Most people do. That's why there's so few high-performance people. Your business idea was born out of revolutionary thinking and passion. As I alluded to yesterday, you started your business, you couldn't wait to get there, you couldn't wait to do this, you couldn't wait to do that, and pretty soon it wanes. And now, a lot, you know, well, I wish it was Friday when it was Tuesday. You're apathetic about it, you're satiated, some of you are making enough money, you're comfortable, and your expectations continue to drop, and pretty soon, you know, or when the kids get out of college, I have to make less money because, you know, I'm not. That's why I spend 110 minimum % of the earned income that I make every year. Normally it's 200 or 300%. That's why when I'm working on a big transaction, I go out and spend a whole bunch of money. The famous story is that I went out and spent $1 million on jewelry for my wife before I was on the eve, like in the weeks prior to a huge transaction I was working on a number of years ago. Now, my wife thought it was a dynamite idea. When she gets here in a few minutes, you can ask her. Because I want to put that additional pressure on myself to make sure I don't lose focus. Sotheby's liked it because I bought all the jewelry from them. They like that. Mr. Hoffman and I were at a deal a few weeks ago with Asprey, which is a famous place that makes very expensive jewelry in London. They have a shop in New York, and maybe they have one in Beverly Hills. I didn't really know there was a Mr. Asprey, although, you know, I bought some rare coins, some Greek coins, a number of years ago at auction, and I decided I was going to make my wife a necklace, a bracelet, earrings, and a ring out of them. Now, I didn't know it was going to be 10, 12 months of designing, and to make it cost me more than the rare coins did. You know, that's Asprey did that for me. And so, but that's what I do. I go out and do something like that. There's a young man in the audience that is in the middle of a divorce in his business, going out and buying a big house. You got to have high self-esteem. You got to think a lot of yourself when you do something like that. all the big guys and the few big, hugely successful women in the country, all the same. They all do the same thing. Because they don't want to waver. They don't want to become satiated and indifferent. They want to make each transaction life and death. I know there's life after death. I'm stealing something from my conclusion for tomorrow afternoon. I know there's life after death because I've been dead financially 5 times. I've seen the white tunnel, except I didn't see God at the other end of that tunnel. I saw a big dollar sign. I've been dead 5 times. I've been resuscitated. I've been given last rites by the Catholic Church 5 times. And I've risen like the phoenix 5 times. And Mosby's, I don't want to be a 6th time with you guys. 5 times I've come back from death. I've come back from death so much now when that happens, Linda doesn't, I mean, well, you know, she doesn't even worry about it. I mean, she never even, there's never even a hitched step in her spending patterns. I mean, she doesn't lose a heartbeat. She just keeps rolling on, you know. But this is the problem that virtually 99.9% of businesses all are suffering from. Because you don't believe in yourself enough, you have low expectations for your business. And if the excuse that I often hear is, well, the people that I have working for me are, well, then you've got the wrong people working for you. There's a big difference between playing not to lose and playing to win. Most people play not to lose. They don't play to win. In the National Football League, the level of play during playoffs, it's been estimated, goes up anywhere from 40 to 100%. Level of strain, etc. Because they're down to the short strokes. And and you ever see in the last 2 minutes, they go into the 2-minute drill when Joe Montana used to go into the 2-minute, he'd march down the field 89 yards like a hot butter through knife. You ask yourself, why? Why can they do it then? Joe Montana's not the only one, but I mean a lot of great teams, great athletes. I love that new word, athleticism. I forget, I think, who's the guy on the Monday Night Football who's married to the young... Gifford, the GIF. What great athleticism. I didn't know that was a word. I don't even know if it's in the dictionary. High-performance people treat their whole life like it's the last 2 minutes of the Super Bowl. Most people in business just, go through doofusing it. That's a new word, doofusing it. Verdeers got up here last night and George said it, in a fairly articulate way, considering he went to the University of Maryland, that, they're focused. Everything they do, has to do with their business. They've been gone umpteen weekends, etc., etc. It's the last 2 minutes of the Super Bowl. And what really is infectious, if you could feel the adrenaline rush of being a winner constantly, it's better than sex. Especially at my age. A lot of things better than sex at my age. That adrenaline rush makes your loins warm. To being always winning. Now, doing this is an adrenaline rush because I get to relive all my successes. We talk about some of my failures. I got, someday I'll write a book about those. Probably be thicker than the book on my successes. But this helps me to stay focused doing these things. Because remember I told you it's replication, replication, replication. Because I'm continuing, at least once a month, sometimes 3 times a month, continuing to repeat this stuff, I continue to remember. And I'm the one that invented all this stuff. But it keeps me focused. It keeps me focused so I can relate to people like the Mosbys and some of my other people that I work with. Big difference between playing to not to lose and playing to win. Defeats are poison to some men. Great men have become mediocre because of inability to accept and abide by a defeat. If you should achieve any kind of success and develop superior qualities as a man, should say as a person now, shouldn't it?
Yes.
I don't believe that shit. Anyway. Chances are it will be because of the manner in which you met defeats that will come to you as they come to all men. Richard Nixon is a preeminent example of this. Trekkie Dick, was down and out when he lost as governor the first time of the state. He was over. It was over. Not to Dick from Whittier, California. Comes back as president. Throw his ass out. And then, like the phoenix, the son of a bitch rises again to be the preeminent statesperson of this country. Unbelievable. He wanted history to set her right. You can and should feel the same way, because remember, you not only let yourself down, you'll let your business down and you'll let your family down if you think any different. I've been forgetting the 5 times I've been financially dead. I can't remember how many times I've been knocked to the canvas. So many. I ought to have calluses on my back. It's not how many times. As Muhammad Ali told me once at an airport, this is after he didn't speak too well, and I'm not going to attempt to try to imitate his stutter now, but he says it's not so how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. Of course, he was only knocked down once or twice in his whole career. The best way to predict the future, ladies and gentlemen, is to create it yourself. I'm assuming, giving you the benefit of the doubt, that's why you're here. The best way to create the future is best way to predict the future, is to create it yourself. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the comfort zone, and this is something else that Jim Newman is given credit, and rightfully so. In the early 60s, he came up with a concept called the comfort zone. Now, virtually all personal development, psychology, psychiatrists, personal development gurus use the comfort zone. And the best illustration I've ever heard, and I continue to use over the years, if we had a 2x12 board here, and it was 20 feet long, and there was $1,000 bills at that end, there's not a man or woman that couldn't walk down a 2x12 all day long and pick up $1,000 bills. None. I mean, even the most doofus of you in the group. Now, if we put that 2x12 up on a 10-story, between two 10-story buildings, that would eliminate probably 99% of the room. There'd be a couple that could crawl across that 2x12. We all of a sudden got out of your comfort zone. Now, if we put your children, for those of you that have children, across them, we poured gasoline on them, and this young lady was going to put a match, since she used to do a lot of bad things, so we'll pick her, and she was going to put a match on the kids. There'd be a few that could get across that 2x12 to save their child. Mostly women. Okay. Yep. Now, if you put your spouse over there and put gasoline, well, forget it. I mean, nobody's going to go across. Forget it. I've been looking a way to get rid of him or her all, for a lot of years. Exactly. Okay. Now, I'm operating 50 stories up. Ross Perot and those guys are operating 100 stories up. Most of the people that attend personal development seminars are operating in the basement. Because, well, what if somebody opened that door to the basement and the wind came in, could knock me off that board? And, I mean, it's what you become comfortable with. I'm comfortable. I was comfortable. See how many presidents have I met? I've met, I guess, 3 presidents. I've met 3 presidents. I've met the Queen of England and a lot of other people. But I was comfortable. I'm comfortable in virtually any situation I'm put. Because, one, I don't think they're any more special than I am, and in most cases, they're less special. I've developed, and I practice, though. I practice being comfortable. You know? I could give this seminar, you could wake me up drunk in the middle of the night, I could give the seminar. Because it's my life. Yet, I still practice. So, someday, when somebody in the audience, in the next 10 years, asks me something that I might not know the answer to, which hasn't happened yet. The probabilities of that happening are so remote, you know, I'll probably fly with wings to heaven before that happens. But I still practice because I want to maintain that comfort. If I practice being comfortable, God knows everybody in this room's got to. You know, I've been on the dais with most of the great personal development gurus. San one, I've never been on the dais with Tony Robbins. But other than him, I've been on the dais with just about everybody. Most of them don't even want to be on the dais with me. They stay out of the room, and then when I leave the podium, they come on stage. Because when the audience looks at me and looks at them, there's no comparison. None! And it's not that I've got this great halo. Maybe I got horns in my head instead of a halo. But I practice. A lot of these guys don't practice anymore. They have what I call Potomac fever, like Richard Nixon had, where, you know, they think they can rise above it. They get Jesus Christ syndrome when they think that they can't be touched. I would have burned the tapes if I had been Nixon. I would have, you know, they wouldn't impeach my ass. I'd have burned those tapes and like that. But he rose up, you know, he got Potomac fever, you know. A lot of politicians get that, or they think they're above it. You know, they can't be touched. We don't have any Hispanic politicians that smart or that stupid, depending on how you want to look at it, because, or, but they get that.
I think that's for you.
Oh, speaking of doofuses, this could be Casey Doofus. Is this Casey? Hey, how you doing? I'm
good. How's Mr. Peña?
Well, I'm good. I'm good. We got you on the speakerphone.
Okay.
Okay. And let's see. Do we know how to turn the speakerphone up?
Yep, right there.
Where?
The mic. Just hold the mic on it.
Okay. Casey?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks for calling. This is Casey Stevenson. Let me introduce you a second.
Okay.
Who is one of my star disciples who came to a seminar in May of 1993. He's been to 4 or 5. He's been to the castle. And he's the fellow that I used the overheads where the minnow swallowed the whale in August 1993. And he now is the owner of the oldest jewelry business, I believe, in the state of California. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you couldn't be here this weekend because you're in the middle of a grand opening?
Right.
And I'd like you to relate to the audience here. And the audience isn't especially quick or isn't especially slow. They're just kind of average doofuses. So if you could relate to the audience. Yeah, I haven't changed any, Casey. You're right. If you could relate to the audience, you know, how you've gone through the cycle, how you now, you know, I forget how much your net worth's gone up, or this one deal's gone up. I think somebody told me at least $1 million, but if you could relate that to the audience, I'd be appreciative.
Okay, Dan, that's not a problem. You know, when I met you last year, I was at a marketing seminar. You were there too. I think you got to pay your $6,000 to see Jay Abraham too.
Yeah.
Of which, if I had not met you, there would have been a washout of $6,000. Thank God you were there. And the purpose of my being there was the way I'd always built my business previously was through mass marketing, and I've been very successful at that. And again, that's why I was at Jay's seminar was to learn more about it. Consequently, I made your acquaintance and have found other ways to make money in today's world, you know, in the 90s. And the thing that's working best for me is acquisition, which I had no real insight on until making your acquaintance. We've done, I don't know, 2 or 3 different deals, I think, since I met you. Some of them I didn't even keep. I just bought them right and dismantled them and made a profit, went on to the next thing. On the major thing that we're doing here, the Warner Company Jewelers, which, as you said, is the oldest company in the state of California, that was monumental. And just by implementing the things that you had talked about before, when I was trying to buy that, the principal of the company didn't care for me for one reason or another, so I went out and got a straw man, so to speak. The owner liked this other gentleman, and I gave him 50% of the deal for 90 days, and I put up the money and wound up with the whole company. And it's phenomenal, the growth. And you talk about the money thing. It's funny, I was thinking about that this morning, knowing that I was going to call you today. And to be perfectly honest with you, things are changing so fast, so rapidly now that I don't really have a clue how far up the scale we've gone. I could find out, but I know it's been quantum leap growth in net worth, cash flow, everything, and the things that are available to us now as an entity compared to say a year and a half ago are mind-boggling. For instance, we probably have in the one store that we're grand opening this weekend, we probably have an extra $4 or $5 million worth of inventory in there. That's all OPM. Other people are just laying it in because we're the doers of our industry right now. We have 2 international award-winning designers in there. The people that I just never would have been able to make contact with previously. And it's all just through implementation of your ideas.
How much money did you put of your own, not counting borrowed money, how much money of your own did you put in when you bought Warner?
Well, initially I put in about 300 grand, but I knew I was going to get it back in 30 days. Okay, so it was one of those deals like, yes, I did have to put some in, but no, I really didn't. I had all my money back in 30 days. So I actually have nothing in it, you know.
What about giving responsibility to your employees and not choking your business to death like Burl did?
Yeah. Hi, hey, by the way, hi, Burl. I don't do that. To be honest with you, I don't have keys, no alarm codes, no combinations to safes of anything I have going on right now. It's all on somebody else's shoulders. I just hire. The other thing too is what you taught me before: go get good people, bring them in far in advance before you need them, and consequently, I'm reaping a lot of the reward of that now. I've gone out and just found really talented people, and I just give it to them. Even after watching you at the castle, I do the same thing you do. There's no paper on my desk, none. You know, it comes through and it goes right by me to somebody else. It's neat, and they do the job if you let them do it. We've been playing with the idea of giving up some equity also in order to take this to another level, which I think will be going into, I say 95, we'll start looking into some of that. The other thing that's amazing, too, I haven't borrowed money from a bank in probably 10 years until I met you. And it's amazing what that has done in the last year, just working with them. Again, implementing your ideas and concepts. And now we've got more credit line than we know actually what to do with right now. We're looking for more things to use OPM right now, to be honest with you. We're just looking for more deals.
As an aside, how far are you? You live up towards Sacramento, don't you?
Right, in between Sacramento and Los Angeles, yeah.
Well, I'm going to be in the next couple of weeks going to Sacramento. I'm going to stop by and see you.
Great. I'd love it.
Okay. Does anybody have a question of Casey? They want to ask him anything? Yes.
He started off in Hanford. He's still in Hanford?
Yeah, somebody said you started off in Hanford, right?
Right.
Are you still there?
Yeah, the store's still there, and it's doing very well. I was there day before yesterday. First time I've been there in 6 weeks.
But now you're in Fresno?
Yeah, I'm in Fresno right now. Right.
Okay.
And then we bought another one in Southern California. We don't know what we're going to do with it. But we have one there, too. But I did, yes, I started in Hampton. Actually, I started in a little town called Lemoore. There's a naval base there. There's 5,000 people in the whole town when I got started.
Another question. Yes, sir.
How many businesses has he acquired in what time frame?
How many companies, businesses have you acquired since last May, or a year ago May?
I'd say 4. We have 4 that I think 3 acquired, and one that we started ourselves as an offshoot of what was already there. So in essence, it was part of an acquisition also.
Okay. Yeah, George.
Did he start the acquisition, or are these businesses that were for sale that he bought?
Were these businesses for sale, or did you initiate the acquisition process, or were they already for sale?
I've rethought everything about what my purpose is anymore. Again, via Mr. Peña's Peñaisms, and I look at myself now as a delivery boy. I'm no longer a salesperson. I find needs and I deliver. And these the things that we have acquired the last 18 months or so all have been through my due diligence and finding somebody that had a need of either needing to get out of business because it was time for them to go, or somebody in cash flow trouble, numerous reasons, and then I delivered the product to them in order to get them out. So most of it was created all on my own.
Yes. Yeah, didn't you postpone your wedding?
Yes.
When you were doing business?
Yes, I sure did. We were supposed to get married I don't know when it was, September or October, and we put it off till after the first year, and finally she says, hey, look, we're getting married on April 10th, and I said, that's great, I'll be there, and we got it done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I postponed the wedding because I just didn't have time. I didn't have time last year. There were other things that for me were more important at the time.
Okay. Any other questions? Casey, thanks a lot. Good luck. Give your lovely wife a hug and a kiss for me.
I'll do it.
And I'll have Lorraine set it up, and I'm going to be up there in the next couple weeks.
Good.
Thanks a lot.
See you, Miss Peña.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Now,
Rick will be here. We'll call at 10:30.
okay. Casey, see, I like that. He doesn't know how much money he's made in the last year, and that's great. And it's like Bunker Hunt has said many times years ago before he lost $4 billion, trying to take over the silver market. Anybody that knows how much money he's got doesn't have too much money. And I really don't know how much money I'm worth either. I don't keep track of it. And of course, I don't know what the tax bracket is. My tax bracket, I just found out recently that the taxes went up when that doofus got in to be president now. And I wrote my first check in the last 10, 12 years. I don't write checks. As Lorraine, Leanne, Valerie, and my business manager ship money around. Some of those people have power of attorney to ship my money back and forth. I don't know how much money. When I was being sued by Great Western, big lawsuit that we're going to talk about tomorrow, we found 7 or 8 bank accounts I didn't even know I had. I forgot I had. And 6 of them were offshore in a tax haven, and they tried to make it sound like I was, it was my money. They tried to make it really look bad to the jury. And but I just didn't know they were there. I remember we found one account that had $77,000 in that we thought we closed, and we found another one of my wife's accounts that she hadn't written a check on in 8 years, because I don't keep track of that stuff, because it's not important. It just isn't. If you make enough money, none of that's important. The key is to make a lot of money. That's the key. And we're going to talk about, and he made the comment, if you let him, his employees do it, if you let him. If you're not choking them to death, Burl. If you let him. I mean, he doesn't, like he said, he doesn't have, I knew he didn't have keys to his stores. He doesn't, he doesn't even know. Because the key, the thing that the entrepreneur stroke CEO should be is to go out and find deals and find additional sources of revenue, additional sources of financing, and that's it. Nothing else. All the rest is bullshit. Donald Trump doesn't know more how to get into one of his casinos in Atlantic City than I know how to do brain surgery. None of these guys. I mean, Rick Scott doesn't even know all the places he owns. He just doesn't. And to the extent that you spend time keeping track of that stuff, it keeps you from doing the other things. It just does. I mean, yes, sir. That's one, but this. He was a control freak. Most of you in this room are control freaks because you're insecure. You lack self-esteem, you lack self-worth, you lack all that other crap. And you feel that by controlling these little minutia things, these little micro things, you know, people that feel really good about themselves. I mean, none of these guys. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about anything of what I do. My money. I don't know anything. I forget who was. Somebody was with me. My accountant called me up and said, "Well, we fought it out with the IRS as long as we can. We got to pay him $109,000." As God is my witness, may he strike me dead right here. I don't remember what we were fighting him about. But I said, "Fine. If you say, Bill, just pay him the 100. You were in the room, weren't you? Just give him the 109." He says, "I said, you sure we can't squeeze it out of him?" "No, we got to pay him. That's including penalties and everything else." I said, "Okay, just pay him. I don't know what the hell. I don't know where I don't remember what we're fighting him about. I really don't." And the biggest problem I have with marketing's great, but I mean, structure should follow strategy, not the other way around. And I mean, I'm not such a great marketer. I mean, I spent a lot of money marketing my own seminars, and it all went in the toilet because I didn't know what I was doing. And then until we found something that clicks better. But and unless you know what you're doing, all this marketing strategy. You can have the best marketers in the world, but unless you understand where you are and where you want to go, I mean, it's not going to do you that much good. Casey's a prime example. I mean, Casey discovered that, like he says, he's a delivery boy now. He's the Pizza Hut delivery boy. You know? Yes, Burl. Well, I mean, see, we're going to talk about building a dream team later. Most of the people in here are represented by morons. I don't even have to know. I can say that across the board. Most people in this room, lawyers and accountants and business advisors, are morons. I'll bet my net worth on it. I'll be surprised if one of you's got is represented by somebody of quality. I'll be surprised. Heretofore, 4 or 5 times, I've talked to thousands and thousands of people now. 4 or 5 people out of all those people are represented well. 4 or 5. Not 4 or 5 a seminar, 4 or 5 in my 18-month career. They're represented by morons. Because most of you go on the cheap. You think you can get something for nothing. And you can't. My lawyers, my accountants can eat the lunch of everybody's lawyers and accountants in this room. Eat the lunch. And I'm not saying you have to have Warren Christopher like I do and O'Melveny and Myers, O'Melveny and Myers are my main lawyers. Charleston Revich and something are my secondary lawyers. Richards Butler, which are my lawyers in England. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, but you also don't get your brother-in-law that, you know, still charges $115 an hour, you know. You get what you pay for in life. Yes, ma'am. Oh, that's you, Lori. Lori, I thought it was a man. Okay. Okay. Okay, Sussman Guthrie, we're going to talk about this tomorrow afternoon. Steve Sussman is the highest paid plaintiff lawyer in America. No lawyer in America gets paid more than he does. He's my primary litigation lawyer. He's the one that headed up the team that we handed Great Western Resources, my former company, their head on a platter here last year. And, you know, and I paid him $1 million for a, you know, what turned out to be a 7-week trial. But, and I could have got it done for 100 grand, probably, 150 grand. But we won. I won $6 million. I mean, so I had to give him $1 million. So what? But most people don't. I mean, don't think that way. See, Steve Sussman has said. He said, Dan, you are one of the few executives, maybe 20, 30 CEOs in the country. You use litigation and lawyers as a business tool. Most people don't. It's just another tool. It's another arrow in my quiver. Now, I've been to court more times than most seasoned lawyers. I've been, you know, I'm experienced. I mean, like I was telling somebody last night, I go in, 2 people I told last night, I go in and negotiate the deals for free, just for a little, I don't need the practice, just to rip their heads off. One, because I don't like the son of a bitch, and the other one just because I don't like where this other guy's part of the world he's from. You know, just for fun, I'll rip his face off. Both guys. Because I've done it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. I mean, I could do it asleep. I mean, I do it drunk. I mean, because it's a part of me. I'm used to it. So I feel confident. And most people, when I walk into them, they'll just fall down and say, okay, fine, Bruce, exactly what do you want? I mean, because Dan's going to hurt me. Yes, sir.
I have more experience with lawyers. I have plenty of experience now with agents. Okay?
Yeah.
Lower like
Yeah, that's pretty low. You're right.
there's a conflict in terms of 2 pieces of advice I'm giving. I mean, I've been given, but they're going in different directions. And one is that I got good news yesterday that a management company that's been working on me for like 2 months and things with the ringer deciding when they were working on called me yesterday after the seminar and said he'd like to work with us. And it's a commission. They'll always be on commission. But the question is, and the conflict I'm getting from my agent included, is there's a temptation when you're trying to build it to make it seems too top heavy. It seems like if you're going to do a deal and paying your agent 10% and the manager 15%, suddenly the performer is thinking, I'm giving it all away.
No, I disagree with that for the simple reason that if they're good, I mean, it allows you the ability to make that much more money. I mean, some of these big stars, there's a few big stars and high income producers. And remember, you don't make your money out of income, you make it out of equity and deals. But there are a few people in the country that manage themselves. But, you know, most of the people realize to take all the minutia and all the micro details out of their life, it's better to pay somebody else. It allows you more time to do what you do best, and that is create, in this particular case, income, or create a following, or create a mystique so people want to hire you, and or use your goods. But see, that's part of the preconditioned notion. You know, it's like I made mention yesterday. At the country club I belong to, it's not a day goes by I'm there, I don't hear people bitching about the lawyers that they spend money. But none of these guys have any money. You know? They're basically all broke. To me, they're broke. To you, maybe they're not broke. To me, they're all doofus broke. You know, and they couldn't buy their house now if they had to rebuy it because they've lived there 85 years. The companies have had zero growth for 50 years. And they sit there playing with themselves, you know, and they bitch because hamburgers went up 16 cents in from the menu that's been there in 11 years to the new menu. That's why I don't talk to any of these guys. And Craig who's a member of the same country club. I don't want to know him. I don't want to, you know. I go play golf. That's it. You can virtually play golf any time of the day, that the sun's up, and so that's why I like it. But I don't want to associate with any of these people. Because I would rather somebody in this room blow my brains out than when I start worrying about they change the menu. I mean, kill me, you know. They changed the first time in I don't know how many, they changed the menu. Who cares? I can't see without my glasses. I can't read the menu anyway. I mean, who cares? They could change the menu every day because unless I'm wearing these glasses that have a little hidden bifocal part, I can't read it anyway, you know. So it doesn't, you know, that's not where it's at. It's like, you know, somebody mentioned the bitching about the $46 room versus the $65 room. It's like people that go drive 40 blocks or save, you know, from $1.59. I don't even know what gas costs, 59 or $2.59. I don't know. Whatever gas costs. I mean, I just figured out, somebody just told me, and Lorraine knows this, I didn't know when you buy something on a credit card that if you're not satisfied, you can get your money back. I thought sale was final. I didn't know that. I just bought my first gasoline where you put the credit card in here in the last 6 months. I didn't know you could do that. Well, no, they put the gas in, and my car runs, so I assume, you know. That's not what you ought to be focusing on. But see, the difference is, it's because you're not really comfortable. Because it's hard for you guys to make money, so you're not comfortable in spending it. Making money should be like a hobby. It should be fun. And it's not for most people. It just isn't. Casey's having fun. He said, this is more fun than when I used to take drugs. And I only say that because he doesn't care. This is more fun than when I used to shoot up heroin when he was a kid. He's another guy we ought to talk to because he got in a lot of trouble. I mean, he and I share a lot of stories. I mean, but I mean, this is more fun. Postponed his wedding. To me, it's it's no big deal, but to most women, it's a fairly important event.
No.
Huh? No, I mean, to me, it's not spit in the wind. What's my wife doing here? I want to start abusing her. She's not here yet. She's probably out spending money. You know, getting comfortable. Napoleon Hill. All these things aren't new. This is all old stuff I'm talking about. Napoleon Hill, when he was a kid, for those of you that have read the books and all the things he's done, when he was poor in Tennessee and his father passed away and his mother, his stepmother, it was a stepmother or stepfather? Stepmother, that's right. He used to go down to this old creek, as they say in Tennessee, and he used to sit there on a log, and he used to visualize, fantasize is the word he used at the time, that how this old log was going to be an old Rolls Royce. And in those days, Rolls Royces were those big boxy things, big huge things look like buses. And he used to sit and he used to visualize this as a poor, just poverty-stricken farm boy in the early part of this century. And then when he got his first Rolls Royce, which is a whole other story, he went and he drove it back to that creek in Tennessee. He drove it right into the water where that log was still sitting. And this is called an anchor in visualization, ladies and gentlemen. He anchored that. High jumpers, baseball players, professional athletes, when they visualize and they work with these sports psychologists like Bob Rotella and these various guys, they teach them how to anchor something. The reason, like, the anchor, the success. I have pictures all over my house of the things that I did that remind me of my success that I've had. They're anchors to the visualizations that I've had over my lifetime. Visualization isn't any good unless you've got an anchor. If you want to be the Cy Young Award winner and, with strikeouts, blah, 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 they visualize striking out the guy in the bottom of the ninth of the World Series to win. Not just throwing strikes or striking. They have an anchor. And that's a lot of times when because a lot of people teach visualization. It's not a new thing. But it's the anchor. So when he drove back to the creek with his first Rolls Royce, that was his anchor. All of our visualization should have an anchor associated with it, something real. That's why you see many, many, many successful people have pictures all over their house and you think it's braggadocious, it's this, because they want to remember, they want to relive. So it becomes their comfort zone. I'm always going to throw touchdown in the last 2 seconds. I'm always going to throw a no-hitter. I'm always going to hit a grand slam. I'm always going to do this. So it becomes part of their comfort zone. My house and my office and the castle and all have these things for my successes. I don't have the time I got blown out of the water on this deal up on the wall, although I freely talk about those, but I don't need, those aren't anchors. I don't need, I know those things happen. And I talk to you about them in other audiences. It has been said that if you will do the thing you fear, death of fear is certain. Courage is not the absence of fear, and anxiety, it is proceeding in spite of those feelings. I said yesterday, I make a lot of money, other high-performance people make a lot of money because they do things that make you feel uncomfortable. Make most people feel uncomfortable. Courage is not the absence of fear and anxiety, it's proceeding in spite of those feelings. It's proceeding in spite of the fact that it makes you uncomfortable. It's proceeding in spite of the fact that it makes you nauseous. It's proceeding in spite. Most people can't do that. Most people find it too terrifying. That's why, ergo, most people are dirt poor. Dirt poor being a relative term. There's virtually nothing you can relate to me or explain to me that makes me anxious, gives me tension, high anxiety, or fear. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. One of the comments I made early on one of the slides, if you're not afraid to die, then you can't really live, or so, I forget what I said, but it's on another slide tomorrow, I think. And the super, super, super high performance people, you know, they're so comfortable with themselves, they're so positive that they're always going to win. As Steve Sussman told me at dinner about a month ago, he says, Dan, you're one of the few guys in the country that has lost the feeling or the fear or the knowledge that you can lose in court. It doesn't even enter my mind. I've won so many times. I've crushed so many big companies, big plaintiffs. I mean, I've lost the fear of losing. This must be Smith, doofus. You know, he could never get anything right. I mean, for me? Ed. Okay. And that takes practice. You don't just walk out of here tomorrow night and lose the fear of losing. You got to put yourself in the breach. And I constantly put myself in the eye of the tiger we talked about yesterday. I go out of my way. I'm willing to negotiate a deal for two people in this room just for fun, so I can slap these two people around. I don't need that. I don't need that aggravation. But I volunteer myself. It's like these morons that my kids go to school with at Rolling Hills Preparatory. They had a board meeting here a few nights ago, and I'm not on the board because I don't want to be on the board. I went down to the meeting, and they were sitting pussyfooting around, and I got up and I gave a scathing speech, ripping their skin off them, basically that they should be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to be part of this group. And I don't need to give more money, which by definition, me making the speech means I got to give more money. I give more money probably than anybody in this room. Maybe the whole room put together to charities. I don't need to give more money, but it just griped the hell out of me. And I put myself in those situations. I constantly put myself in those situations because I always want to feel comfortable in those situations. A fearless man thrives on far horizons. Again, you know, Napoleon Hill said most of this a lot better than I did many, many years ago. And in my judgment, life is too short not to follow your dream. We're only on this earth 70, 80, 60, whatever the years, depending on how good you are to yourself. And I don't want to die thinking that I had the opportunity to do all these things and I didn't. I just, you know, It's like I tell my kids, and I'm sitting, like we have some relatives that have Alzheimer's, and I believe in euthanasia. That Dr. Death, whatever his name is, just come and plug me in, Dan, when I start that, just put me to sleep. And my son says, Dad, we'll put you down just like we did Driller. This is my Great Dane. We'll put you down just like we did Driller. And Dan Jr. means it. That's my son. He'll put you down just like we did Driller. And my wife wants to be buried at the castle up in the wall garden. And Dan was sitting there about a year ago, and he says, Mom, I'll bury you where the hell I please, because you're going to be gone. Yeah. The reason people want to do business with me, and people like me, and people like Rich Scott, is because they want to follow the fellow that follows a dream. When I told you the story, I talked to my stockbroker this morning, and the stock that I've been accumulating is up 40% since yesterday, because I'm betting on one guy, the chairman CEO. These are the people you want to be in business with, not your moron brother-in-law, not your idiot brother, not your doofus mother and father. This is who you want to be in business with. Most people confuse wishing and wanting with pursuing. Their desire for a dream may be desperate and deep, but when the desire fails to produce, they conclude the dream cannot be theirs. Actually, the only proof they have is that the longing is not enough. The data at hand merely prove that desire alone does not and cannot deliver. Wishing and hoping. Wishing and hoping for that prince to come in and kiss you, and you go for the ladies and take you away to a castle. You got to kiss a lot of frogs, and maybe one of those frogs will turn into that prince. You got to kiss those pussy lumps all over. Get that pus all over you. That's why I shaved my mustache, because I got tired of the pus sticking in my mustache. I had a mustache for 25 years.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Oh, here's... Didn't say anything radical.
Who knows?
Jeez, this guy's...
Gave him open range here.
This guy's a wacko.
Good afternoon.
Speaking of, I was just saying this guy's a wacko. How you doing?
Great.
Now, we have a group here, and as I've explained to somebody else here just recently, the group's not too smart, not too stupid. It's kind of in the middle, kind of like you. So, but they don't have the financial background like you, and they're not as cheap as you. Used to be, I hear. But I want you, I've told them the story basically how I walked through your company in 20 or 30 minutes. I gave you some ideas. You've heard me speak 2 or 3 times. And now the success you've attained, and you've turned around several things, your business has expanded, et cetera, et cetera. And if you could share that with the group, I'd be appreciative.
Got it. Dan, one of the things Dan did in our operation is he told me how cheap I am, and he can be very, very pushy. But you figured that out by now, being in day 2. What he did, and what you did for us, is this guy, because of his stature, he was able to help me feel more confident in making some of the moves I was already thinking of. And as a result, since we got together for that brief time last January, we're in a new office space that's substantially better and more than twice the size. We have some new businesses we're starting that are spinning off. And the other keys are I've surrounded myself with much better people who initiate in their own right. I've done a complete technology overhaul, and now for someone who is doing no computers and nothing, I'm on the internet. We're looking at acquisitions. It's a whole different picture. This is exciting. And I'm still as stubborn as I was.
You are?
Yeah.
Have you found some girl that'll marry you as cheap as you are?
No. I was very disappointed. You pulled away one of my dearest friends who I always kept asking about you, and we missed him yesterday. George. Hi, George Fairjay.
Yeah, they're here. Yeah.
He was going to be at my office yesterday, and he knows how resistant I've been to Dan Peña's suggestions.
but Dan works on you and works on you, and finally you start doing some of the things he says, and you start seeing it actually working. It's quite a leap of faith, a quantum leap in many respects.
Well, that's good. One of the things that I told Rick when I went through the operation was, the office space and the people that he had around him, and he's just related that he's changed both of those things, and for him to look not just on growth internally, but by acquisition, and he had some offshoots businesses that he could go into that were just absolutely winners in my judgment based on what he does. And when we get off the phone, I'll tell you more about what he does. In fact, not everybody in this room, but a lot of people in this room could use his service and probably benefit by it. But well, that's good to hear. I'm glad to see that you've come a long way since we last talked, and but it's a leap in faith. You have to have that leap in faith, and not everybody's capable of doing that.
It's very difficult going and spending more and investing in expansion and changing people who have been with you and not necessarily producing, but to be willing to take a chance on everything, a lot of new things all at once, requires almost somebody as strong as Dan to push you off that ledge to get you to fly. And he's going to be pushing you, but I got to tell you, it's a whole different company. It's hard to believe where I was less than a year ago.
Well, good. Any questions of Rick? Rick, thanks a lot. I'm going to be back on the East Coast after the first of the year. Let's get together.
Done.
Thanks a lot. Nice talking to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This guy's the cheapest. I don't, I say this, and I don't mean this derogatorily, because I don't know any cheap African Americans, but this is the cheapest white guy I know. I mean, bar none. There's nobody tighter than this guy. And he had a business that could really explode, and I told him, I said, you're killing yourself. And he surrounded himself with doofuses, and we're going to talk about building your dream team. And there's probably nobody in this room, well, I won't say that, there's few people in this room that have people that were working for him that could work for somebody like me. Because, see, I want people that are smarter than me. I want people that are clearly a step above me intellectually. And most people, they can't live with that. No matter how you cut it, people can tell me that work with me, because nobody works for me, they all work with me. You're full of shit, Dan. Not too many people in this room can take that. I mean, I like it. And that's all he had. He had a Pulitzer Prize-winning guy from Sports Illustrated working for him that he was having do some kind of menial doofus work. And I go over and sit with, first of all, his whole office, he had like 45 or 50 people in a room half as big as this one. And they were sitting on top of each other. And I mean, and I went over to this poor guy, and he was about 60 years old. I went over and sat on a box next to him because I'm all cramped up like this. And well, tell me something about you. And he blah, 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 blah. And this is a guy that he had retired and had lost all his money in some investments. And so he had to go back to work. And God knows, he's working for Smith. I mean, he might as well work for Hitler or something. Anyway, and so we're sitting there, and I asked him about his background. This guy was very talented. And I mean, and Rick wasn't using him that way. And then I went and talked. This is 20 minutes, 25 minutes tops. I'm out of the office. And I told him on the way to dinner that night. Then we went to I'm trying to think of the not Greek restaurant. I can't think of it. What's the belly dancers? Turkish restaurant. And he said that the entertainment would start at 10. So I'm sitting there, and we were the only people in the restaurant. The only. And it was 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9, 9:30, 10. We're still the only people in the restaurant. And we're sitting there with a business consultant that I know that with him. The highlight of the meal is, how they come and wash your hands? They pour the hot water on your hands. That was the highlight. I got food poisoning. And I had to go to Chicago the next day to make a speech. I'm dying. I mean, really dying. And of course, he never paid the guy when we got up and left. He had bartered, because he was a famous barter guy. You know what? I never knew what barter, intellectually I understand what barter meant, but I never traded anything in my whole life. Never, till I got in this business. I mean, never. I mean, why would you, I'll trade you 4 seats to sleep with your wife, or, I mean, why would you do that? Why would you waste time doing that? But that's why nobody in this business got any money. Because they worry about trading 6 seats, and I'll sleep with your daughter, and then you can have my cousin, and then we'll take some print time. Oh, it's beyond my comprehension. It just is. But he had bartered for that dinner. And I got food poisoning. And I said, you are the cheapest screw I ever met in my entire life. And I've met some really tight screws in my life. But you are the cheapest, no good son of a bitch I ever met.